the inspection checklist that I use for my water heaters and furnaces. One of the things that used to irritate me about continuing ed classes is you would go to the class and they're talking about water heaters, but they don't talk about the codes for the water heaters. They just talk about how great it is because it heats water. So, you know, I wanted to at least create a checklist that broke out the code sections. You're going to see like local amendments and the legal aspects of code, safety devices, water supply connections. At the bottom of water supply connections, you're going to see local amendments. Flexies are prohibited. So you can't use like the flexi hose for the supplies. You flip it over, you're going to see the chapter 24, the fuel gas code. You're going to see the next chapter is gas pipe. And then the last chapter is the appliance installation requirements. You know, you're going to see M1305. Minimum access for service, repair, replacement, or inspection without removing permanent construction items. Like these guys were saying, our code says behind drywall is accessible. Ours is the only code. The NEC says if you got to take a tool to open it, it's not easily readily accessible. Fuel gas code, same thing. But our code says it is. So I'm actually going to promote these, a little nicer rendition of it on the website for guys that install water heaters. In case, let's say, an inspector, an overzealous, let's say a brand new inspector says, you got to do this, 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 and this. If he can't give you the code section, one, he's not supposed to sign it. But you know what? There's a learning curve to everything. But at least you have this. I would recommend you fold it up and put it in your code book, but I'm going to challenge you guys, if you could see this heater, to use the checklist and tell me what you think. I'll work through it with you. Is a dirt leg required? I mean, most guys will tell you off the top of their head.
It used to be.
So where would we find dirt leg on this? It is under G2419 under the gas pipe section. It says sediment trap dirt leg. It's required. Fuel gas code also says you can't take it off the branch of the T. You know, that's not the end of the world, is it? Somebody going to get sick or die? The idea is you're not using a T as a coupling. You're supposed to have the right size pipe. The T's on the vertical drop at the lowest point. Most guys will, you know, they'll have the riser, it'll drop, they'll tee off probably 6 inches above and come over and pick up the appliance. But there's no real rule in how you do it. If you look at the fuel gas code, it also says for, you're supposed to do like a swing joint for a drop. You have a T on its back, T up, 90 over, 90 down. It's a swing joint. So that any oils and sediments stays in the main, the oversized piping, not in the reduced size piping for your appliance. Especially if you have 2 appliances coming off of 1 drop. Okay? Is a flexi gas connector allowed? Well, let's see, where the hell did I find a flexi gas connector?
It is on a furnace.
It isn't allowed.
They used to allow them on, I know the guys at Furnace installer on Linux.
Okay.
One that was, as long as it was, you know, they usually run them between the cold air duct and the furnace, so it wasn't where somebody could trip on it and damage it,
Right.
because of the vibration.
The pulse furnace used to require it.
Yeah.
They don't even sell those anymore for a reason. They had the vibration.
That's the only time I've ever seen it.
It's a rubber flexi for the ductwork because it was, you know, the startup was crazy on those appliances. So the whole system would rock. You know, I could see on one of those tube heaters, infrared. You know, somebody hits it with a forklift, you're going to want a flexi connector on that. I think it's recommended by the manufacturer, but
That's a little different though too, because it's up. It's not where somebody's going to trip.
right.
It's up there in the ceiling.
Well, and I hate to say it, but technically we are in earthquake zone number 5 by the residential code book.
Yeah, that's what they say you're supposed to use.
So if you're in a earthquake zone, you have to support or secure it, like strap it to a wall, and then maybe you can use flexis. The idea of a flexi is like for a dryer, right? Where you got to pull it out, service the lint, replace it. You know, maybe it's going to walk a little.
Say the driver's out of balance, walking a little.
Exactly, but you know, the water heater, it doesn't even have legs anymore for a reason, right? I mean, you have one of the legs kick out and you have 40 gallons, 8 pounds a gallon falling on a little kid. Not a great design. Although I love those legs when I put it on a two-wheel dolly and had to hump it up the stairs, that was just enough until it caved. Right? So, but,
Unless it feels good mean and go in the basement, it's like, holy crap.
Oh,
Break the
absolutely.
water line.
what I always hated was the floor drain was right underneath the three-legged appliance.
If you're lucky it works.
If, yes. But basically on this, you're gonna find that, you know, plastic, PVC, TNP relief piping is not allowed, flexis for the water are not allowed. I like this picture, they actually took 3 flexis and put them together to supply the water for appliance. I don't think, if you can't have one, you definitely can't have 3, right? You know, vent connectors.
Exhaust up and down.
Man, that is just an S-trap
There's
on
an
it.
S-trap in that dude.
It has to have a 1/4 inch of pitch, up and away. Right? I mean, that's minimal.
That's probably a safety, so when squirrels come in, they get stuck in the bottom.
You can watch it like a squirrel in a cage, right? You have to have pitch on it. You have to have the proper connection into the chimney. And here's a new one, the bonding jumper. Did you guys ever hear of a bonding jumper for a water heater? Have you heard of the bonding jumper for a water meter? So your ground has continuity back
Oh, I'm
outside
talking
the
about the
building.
wire, the jumper.
Right.
But what are you talking about on?
You have to, well, the reason why you have it on the water meter is the same reason why you need it on a water heater. You have a dielectric union with a rubber gasket, right? So you jumper the hot, the cold, and the gas. Robert, am I-
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Has that been updated to the electrical code?
It is in the NEC, it's in the fuel gas code. And as such, then it's referenced in our code, and it's a requirement.
Is it something we need to worry about?
It's something- No, you're commercial, yes, they would have to do it.
Back in the day, they was good for animals.
So you have to follow the manufacturer's instructions, correct?
But I guess that would.
Yeah. Or else would it be compliant with manufacturer's?
So,
Extra step, another $100 on the water heater.
yeah, I mean, but let's be honest, that brass connector, technically you're supposed to have the same size grounding conductor as what the house has. If you have a number 6 wire, I don't recommend the bare wire, it's technically supposed to be insulated, but I would, whatever the jumper is at the meter. Now, I'm of the odd set that I have a hard time failing plumbing for an electrical connection that wasn't required in its day, but now is. So I recommend, guys, as you go through it, you start doing it, it becomes habit. Your installations are more code compliant than the competitions, and they're safer. Isn't that kind of what it's all about? You know, if you have to buy a box of these things to get a discount, I understand. If you have to buy one at a time, what do you do with a power vent? Because technically, that's bonded to the case if you attach the little equipment grounding screw to the case, to the frame. If you don't, it's not. So technically, you would have to go from the gas to one or the other, hot or cold. Honestly, if you start splitting hairs, you're gonna make mistakes, in my opinion. I don't ever want to disapprove a water heater because it doesn't have a grounding clamp on it. I mean, a lot of guys do it up in the in the horizontal piping, thinking it's easier. It's probably a much shorter amount of wire than down here, but whatever it is. I'm sorry, I
Well, let's
interrupted.
say you did enforce it and you failed me on it, who's it go back to?
You're the plumber. It's the water heater's requirement. It's in the fuel gas code and the NEC. So if it's not gas fired, then it's in the NEC. I would always recommend, I mean, you look at the new installations, they always have it. I mean, They know it's there because of, you have the union. Well, what if you use a brass adapter that doesn't have the gasket? Is it still required? The code doesn't stipulate. It's silent. So, you know, for $20 a part, I get it. I know a lot of guys discharge the TMP into the safe pan. Can we do that? No. Can you tell me where it says it in the code book? That was a bad night. Do you know where it says in the code book that safe pan is not intended to receive the discharge from a TMP? Any idea? Go on a code book if you got it.
Doesn't matter,
Even a
it's
clue.
not a floor drain.
What's that?
Doesn't matter, it's not a floor drain.
Any guesses? We had a shot at the Illinois Accessibility Code
So
book.
you can't put it into the pan and then have the pan run into the floor drain?
Correct. Do you have any idea where you would find that in the code book?
No.
No cheating. It's in definitions. Man, you find a world of stuff in definitions. Safe pans are not intended to receive discharges from TMPs. Doesn't that make sense? You have an electric appliance sitting above a toilet in a bathroom, right? If you're discharging into that, you have an electric appliance sitting in a bottle of water. Am I overstating it?
No.
I don't think so. But I see it every single day. Would it be better than this? I can tell you after the 7th attempt at trying to have a compliant 5-gallon water heater elevated in a bathroom, you know, there's some education that needs to transpire there. But so does this help? At least I'm serious. Even if I had my license for 40 years, I would still go defer to definitions. One of the first hotels I did, the inspector said he wanted 110 degrees on everything. I explained to him that definition says that this is a semi-private installation. Me leasing the space is no different from me renting a house. Same temperature requirements, 115 degrees. He failed me 3 times. Marriott was up one side of me and down the other. Got the state inspector and I got the guy's boss out there. You know, I explained it in definitions. It says exactly what it is. You can't reinvent the wheel and you can't make the codes up. But, you know how many times did you hear something when you were an apprentice? When you were learning? And it sticks like it's the gospel. Think of some of those occasions, man, because, wow. But if we were to discharge into the safe pan, can I cite definitions as a code violation? Wow. What would you cite if somebody discharged a TMP into a safe pan that's not supposed to be there? So to me, you know, this is what I would go with. Operation of the equipment, 890-200. All plumbing equipment required by this part shall be operated in the manner intended by the manufacturer.